Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Dailies on Equa Television. Quite a number is happening in the country as already protesters are beginning to mount the street, as well. We're seeing that business is quite slow as a number of people are still observing the environment to see what will be like today. So we'll just keep our fingers crossed, hoping that the protest will be peaceful. We can see security agents have already, are trying to be by where they can protect protesters as well, because we will recall the IGP have directed his officers to protect protesters. So we're seeing various body of the security agency already on the street trying to protect protesters. So please, wherever you are, try to be safe and also try to do your protest in a peaceful way. I am Tela Elisha Dasha, and I'm doing the program with Rachel Tansy. Good morning.
Morning, Sally.
How you doing?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm great, looking at the way the street is this morning. I have to be very, very cautious. I have to be very careful. I was observing. In fact, you could see that even commuters as well as motorists are just a little. You could see that the road is kind of scanty and people are just trying to be very vigilant. But I mean, it's what it is. It's already the D-Day for the protest. Already a number of people on the street with their blacks trying to show solidarity with what is actually happening, the bad governance as well as corruption, hunger, and so many other things under it. But then we'll just keep our fingers hoping that everybody will try their best to be peaceful during the protest.
Of course, this is the time that we have to all be careful when we are going out, because yes, the street looks different from what normal day activities should look like. I believe that the government have truly succeeded in putting so much fear in people.
The tension is there.
Exactly, and then some of the businesses that should run in a normal day, because regardless there are people still going to jobs, going to work and all of that. So you see food vendors that are supposed to be out there today because people do need to eat are not out there, and even businesses that are thriving on daily demands are not out there and all of that. But regardless, we are looking forward to having a safe and sound today, and hopefully everybody will do their best. And I am looking forward to seeing our security agents behaving like they know what they are doing. I am looking forward to seeing them truly being part of the protest in a way that they are expected, that is in protecting the lives of protesters. That is, I need to see them showing Nigerians that they know what they're doing, more importantly than any other thing. And of course, looking forward to seeing the protesters also conducting themselves in the right manner.
Of course, of course. Well, let's go through the papers and see what the papers have for us this morning. We will start with this day newspaper.
On this day newspaper, Otedola backs windfall tax carpet banks over $500 million expenditure on private jets. Says extravagant lifestyle erodes public trust in financial institutions, diverts crucial resources from priority sectors and others. You can start with his statement on the front page. First Bank Nigerian Holding grows profit by 101% to 411.99 billion naira in first half of 2024. Tinubu to Onwenu, may your music never fade, find where there's dancing in the sun. Consumers face more hardship as panic buying push up demand prices ahead of protest. The big story on the paper, Northern Elders back protest, Niger Delta opts out, courts restrict protesters in FCT, Lagos and Ogun. What to expect from states? And we have a picture story, facts behind the offer presentation of FCMB group rights issues, where we are seeing banks doing whatever it takes to be able to come out with the recapitalization margin from the Central Bank of Nigeria. And that's all the news on this day newspaper.
Let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper. Bank recapitalization, foreign investors moving in, coming from Cardoso. You can find detail on page 20. We can't pay 70,000 naira minimum wage, coming from Gombe governor. You can find detail of that. As well, we are seeing murder of Ogumboboye daughter, 3 domestic staff arrested. You can read that on page 6. As well, we're seeing Onyeka passing our mom's last moment by her sons. Tinubu wife Obi Okoroche Musawa mourned the demise of this wonderful woman. You can find detail of that on page 7. Protesters urged to leave room for dialogue as police deploy assets. With the writer here, leave room for dialogue, reduce protests to 1 or 3 days, or between 1 to 3 days. And then you can see Falana emphasizes rights of citizens to protest. Court restrain Abuja protesters to MKO Abiola Stadium, so that is to say they cannot use the Eagle Square. Police conduct show of force assure Nigerians of safety. Recover explosive devices drop at custom FOU wall. Sean called for anti-hunger protests. SGF tell Nigerians, we firmly support citizens' right to protest. Assembly, I take that again. We firmly support citizens' right to peaceful assembly and protest. This is coming from Action Aid. You can read detail of all that on page 5. Windfall levy, bankers meet Tinubu for clarification. And on the protest, we can't afford another hashtag NSAS experience, coming from Sanwo-Olu and Oyebanji. Detail found on page 10. Boko Haram suicide attack killed 19, injured dozens in Borno village. Opposition reps walk out of plenary over bill to raise ways and means. You can find out on page 9. As well, we have a column from Olufasan, which you can read about what he's saying about Nigeria needing a permanent National Council of Elders. And on Sport Paris 2024 Olympics, Team Nigeria in disarray, controversy over the emission from the 100-meter race. You can read more detail of that on page 31. We have a picture story as well, still on FCMB, presenting facts behind the offer and other pictures as well. So that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, the big story, why we are worried about protest. Begs protest organizers orders to give government more time to put in place reforms aimed at economic revival. Give government more time, Senate urges protesters. Airstrike destroy over 70 illegal refineries in last 3 months. This is a report from CAS. Respond promptly to Nigerians' demands, Catholic Bishop urged Tinubu. NDDC to commence channelization of blocked creeks in Bayelsa and rivers. NAS increases federal government borrowing limit in ways and means to 10%, and which recently we saw the finance minister saying the ways and means are gone, and now we are seeing a bill concerning increasing how much the ways and means will be. I just hope that we do have the administration knowing exactly what they're doing regarding the ways and means. You can start with the details on the front page. Hashtag end bad governance protest. Court restrict protesters in Abuja, Ogun, and Kwara. Contentious scheme of service. ASU put proposed strike on hold. Details can be found on page 11. And that's all the news on the Daily Times newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at New Telegraph newspaper. Currency in circulation puts record high at 4.05 trillion naira. Credit to economy drops by 1.47%. You can start reading on the front page and continue on page 3. Windfall levy, bankers meet Tinubu, seek clarification. As well, we're seeing First Lady meets governor's wife to launch Women Empowerment Program for traders August 22nd. Africa's central bank governors in Abuja canvass fair global financial system. Ticking time bomb, 40% of Kano's 60% youth population unemployed. Iconic musician Onyeka dies at 72, and we will record a detail having that she slumped down after performing at her friend's birthday, who happened to be the founder of Emzor Pharmaceuticals. So that's what happened. And you can read more detail of that on page 4, 5, and 26. Protest D-Day, Tinubu's democratic credentials under test as IGP insists no unplanned protest, warn against fake news spread. Court restrain protesters to Abuja Stadium. Federal government advocate dialogue, says economic hardship will abate soon. 1 year too soon to assess government performance, coming from the Senate. Police arrest Christina civil rights activist. And then we have Lagos won't allow another hashtag answer Sanwo-Olu warn. Enugu PDP fingers APC Labour Party leadership employed to cause unrest. And all of this concerns coming from various body, what the Senate is saying, as well as federally advocating that 1 year is too short to assess the government. And I believe it's not too short, because each time, why do we have 100 days in office? It's a time to actually look at every administration or a government to see how far you can go. Of course, it might be too short to say, okay, we didn't have a time to be able to actualize certain things. But in between this short time, we've seen policies that the government have made that have crippled the entire economy. Okay, let us see. As a result of this protest now, yesterday the market was quite jam-packed because people were running into panic buying. In fact, I personally met someone who was saying that this protest is going to be for 10 days. So even if you don't have money, you will have to borrow to be able to buy food stock and make sure that just in case the protest will take a different turn, you'll be able to have something with your family to eat. But who is to blame for the panic buying? And then here we are seeing various approach coming. I mean, definitely his credentials is put on the test. Trying to look at your Renew Hope agenda. What and what have you been able to achieve from that? Of course, just like we keep saying, for you to have a good harvest, you look at what have the ground been well prepared for the seed you're planting. If you've not prepared the ground well, definitely whatever seed you're planting will end up being choked by weeds and grasses, and you will not have the yielded profit you are hoping to. And this is what is happening. And so I believe that, just like we're saying, yes, it is within Nigerians' right to protest. But here I'm hearing the governor of Lagos are saying they will not allow. And I hope he's planning to protect every indigene in Lagos State. Because I don't think the government actually called Lagos State to give account of what happened to those people who died at the toll gate. Till today, we just had a silent mass burial that was being done. And the same government said nobody was killed. So who are the people that were buried during that silent mass burial? So we are hoping that whatever the approach the government will take, they should try as much as possible to take the right approach. Protect protesters just as you promise you will protect them. Because believe you me, if anybody should die as a result of this protest, it's going to take a different turn entirely. We saw what Kenya Bishop was saying. Nigerians should learn from Kenya. And I believe Nigerians will be more civil rather than burning things like we saw in Kenya. But we hope that the government will protect protesters, and we hope that the yielded result for this particular protest, will see it eventually.
So it's really sad that when people are panic buying, is because they think, or their expectation rather for the protest is that it's going to go south, it's going to be bad. That is the expectation. When people are panic buying, you're not hearing them say, let me stock up food so that while I go out for the protest, I don't have to worry about food. No, they're buying food because they are expecting the protest to go bad. That is, it shows us how drowned in negativity we are as a country. It shows how we are so far from being optimistic. It shows that we are more negative. It shows that we are thinking of all the wrongs that could happen than the rights. Everybody is thinking of the buildings, of the shops that could get burned, rather than the government hearing us. Everybody is more worried that all things will burn down, rather than the government listening and probably changing certain policies that are the reason we are where we are. Sele, 1 year is enough to know if certain policies are working for us. You take out fuel subsidy, that is plan A. What is plan A for making sure that the effect is not felt as badly as we are feeling it in the country right now? You have no plan. It already shows that you are a shallow thinking administration. We can leave it at that. You float the currency, and this one policy in specific, 2 months, a week, Sele, days is enough for us to know if that policy is good enough. 1 year is too far to
For
know
you to
if the
actually run.
exactly if the policy that you've made regarding the exchange value of your currency is good enough. A week, days, 2 days is enough for you to know if that is going to be favorable to your economy or not, and all of that. And we can pinpoint all the things that the administration have put in place, and you just can't help but wonder, are you experimenting with Nigeria, or are you just shallow-minded as an administration? And for Nigerians, our mindset is more negative. The government have succeeded in brainwashing us to think that nothing good can come out of a certain thing that was designed in the first place for the government. There is nothing more. And Sele, if any life is lost at the process of a project, at the process of a protest, it is the fault of the government, nobody else. Because they are with the responsibility. The same way we can point fingers at the farmers dying at the hands of Boko Harams, at the Benue killing, at the Southern Qatar, the same way we can point our fingers at the government is the same way. If any life should be lost during a protest, it is the fault of the government, and they need to stand up to their responsibility, because they are expected to make sure that nothing goes wrong when the people say, we want you to listen to us. That is what democracy is all about. It's first us, then you. But I think reverse is the case in this country. And this is where you see how upside down our system is. And I believe that there's a starting point to everywhere. Whether you like it or not, you need to listen to the people. And there are ways for you to listen to us. And for some reason, if you want to solve every problem with rice, we are telling you, Nigerians are telling you, that we have gotten to the point that it's not rice that we need. We need jobs. We need security. We need better fiscal and monetary policies. We need things that will make us thrive regardless of the government. We need things that will make businesses thrive, that we don't have to have people waiting on government jobs, seeing slots. Over 10,000 people. We saw how within 72 hours, we saw that this recent fund that was open, we saw hundreds of thousands of Nigerians already applying within a short period of time. This is how to show you that so much is not working, that you can't just access loans and thrive a business. You can't save to start a business. There are no funds. There are no certain things for you to access. We want an economy that you can thrive without being dependent on the government. And even as we're dependent on the government is failing us, because we had an administration that told us there are no jobs for you anymore. Go to the farm. And when people decided to go to the farm, they were being killed on the farm. So where do you want us to run to? What do you want Nigerians to do? You teach us skills. We go for youth service. There is Said, where we learn and skills acquisitions and all of that.
Yes.
But then when we come back, the exchange rate is allowing nobody to practice those skills. So where are we going to? Where are we running to? Where do the Nigerian government want the youth to go to when there's virtually nothing working in their favor, no matter how hard you try, looking at every policy that have been put in place? So I think the government should just sit tight, protect every protester, and listen to Nigerians. And we don't want rise. We want to see policies that will make us tomorrow be the ones exporting rice, because we have in abundance.
You know, if Senate is saying that 1 year is too short, why are we having some of our politicians running away from the country then?
Why? Yeah.
Just like you said, it's quite sad that we're looking at this protest from the negative points. No wonder we always see panic buying. The moment you hear a little rumor, there's going to be fuel scarcity, panic buying. The moment you hear anything, panic buying. In fact, traders have made it a point of duty. They'll decide to hoard food and then wait for times like this, and then
yes,
you see the price going high, and it's quite sad. So just like you said, who is to blame for all of this eventually? It's the government. You've made Nigerians to just look at things from always seeing the bad and the evil of everything that's meant to be for good. Let's just keep our fingers and see how the one of the protests will turn out to be. Still a New Telegraph newspaper, we have the U.S. Embassy moves to new visa service provider August 26. And we have pandemonium in Owerri as gunmen launch surprising attack. As well, we have Justice Ogumobia's daughter killed in her Lagos home. Unilag postponed second semester exams indefinitely. And then we have Nelford disbursed 1.17 billion naira for 20,000 students. So that is to say every student is going to get 20,000 naira stipend, more like an allowance every month for those who apply for the student loan. You can find detail of that on page 2 and 30. And concerning CBN, National Assembly raises Ways and Means loan by 100%. We saw one of the papers saying by 10%, but here we're seeing New Telegraph saying 100%. Apex Bank begins review of capital raise plan, reassures foreign investors on fund safety. Reps direct NNPC Limited to hold crook for loan plan. You can read detail of that on page 5, 8, and 28. And we have a study that says 43% of cocoa product exceed lead safety levels. You can read what that implies on page 28, and that is all a New Telegraph newspaper.
On Daily Sun newspaper, pandemonium in Owerri as gunmen launch attacks. The big story: mass protests, security forces lock down Abuja, Lagos, and others. Residents panic, stockpile foodstuffs. Federal government in panic mode, says bandits on prowl to hijack demonstration. Court restricts action in Abuja and Ogun. Rep Sanwo-Olu in last-minute moves to avert protest. Senate expands CBN loan mandate to federal government. House in rowdy session approves 10% advances to government. Opposition lawmakers stage walkout. Nel Fund disburses over 1.17 billion naira loans to 20,000 students. Tinubu, Mba, P-Man, AGN, others mourn Onyeka Onwenu. You can find details on page 27. Consular Services, U.S. Embassy Consulate change visa services provider. 1 year not long enough for Tinubu's policies to yield desired results is a statement from Senate. Enugu PDP accuses APC LP of plotting to cause unrest. We have a picture story from left to right. Ministerial press briefing series where we can see special advisor to the president on information and strategy, Bayo Onanuga, Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dele Alake, Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy, Wale Adun, and Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Abubakar Badugu. And we have that is during a press conference in Abuja yesterday, where I believe ministers are meeting to see the way forward on stopping the protest. And that's all the news on Daily Sun newspaper.
Take a look at the Nation newspaper. Billionaire businessman Dollar backs federal government on forex windfall levy. Industrializing accuses bank chiefs of extravagant lifestyle. Says core banking values must be upheld. Recapitalization will improve efficiency. You can start reading on front page and continue in the paper. EFCC recovers 231.62 billion naira under Tinubu. Agency gets new unit. National Assembly reenact 2024 Appropriations Act passage rowdy in-house. As well, we've seen the big story why protest is unnecessary by Akume, Edu, Bagodu, and Alaki. Court limit protesters to Abuja Stadium, 4 places in Ogun State. Inside as well, we're seeing ministers, better days coming, action will reverse. Again, Sanwo-Olu caution concerning that, and as well, we're seeing detail on page 2 and 3. Here we have the NEL Fund disburses 1.1 billion as tuition fee to 20,000 students. Institution gets 850 million naira. Each beneficiary to receive 250,000 naira for upkeep, that is annually in a year. You can find detail of that inside the paper. IED donates in Lagos, and then we have Makinde names technical varsity after Ajimobi. You can find out on page 8. We have picture story here showing building resilience for green investment. You can do well to get the paper in more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On the Punch newspaper, tension food prices rise as hunger protest begins today. Presidency National Assembly governors beg protesters as Nigerians rush to stock foodstuffs. Police seize protest materials in FCT. Lagos CP insists on court order on rally routes. CBN advances opposition. OPS oppose higher borrowing limit for federal government. Students may pay 80,000 naira electricity fee in varsity. This is coming from the Vice Chancellor's panel. On Forex tax, Tinubu bank chiefs in closed-door meeting. How doctors battle to save Onyeka's life. This is a statement from OP. Still on the paper, federal government withholds 4.9 billion naira Unity Schools meal subsidy. Akpabio Shomole Shaibu to lead APC campaign in Edo. Reps direct NNPC to suspend crude for loan deal. Guards, two others held for justice. Ojumo Gobia's daughter's mother. Imported vaccine lingers as cholera cases hit 4,809. Details can be found on page 3, and that's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
Before we continue further with the paper review, let's take a break to let you go through the stories, and when we come back, we'll continue with the paper review. Please stay tuned with us.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zuma Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
Welcome back. It's still the dailies. We have been looking at a number of stories on the paper. Senate is saying it's too soon to judge the Tinubu's administration. As well, we are seeing that in various parts of the country already protesters are beginning to mount the street, as we're seeing that for Abuja they have been restricted to just the MKO Abiola Stadium, and then other parts of the country as well are having their own fair share of where protesters are allowed to go and protest. So you can do well, go through the papers and drop your comment and your views on any of the story that is of interest to you. I have Rachel with me here. Thank you so much, Rachel.
You're welcome, Sarah.
All right, let's take a look at the next paper, which is the Guardian newspaper. And we have hunger protests, anxiety in states as protesters insist ignore government appeals. Adamawa denies receiving 20 trucks of grains from the federal government. Now we're beginning to see states one by one, Rachel, coming out to state the fact that they're yet to get these trucks of grain. Meanwhile, in another state, we're seeing where somebody is diverting the trucks that were meant for citizens. So we really do not know what's holding this state from getting theirs, but we hope that something will be done. This can be a reason why people begin to loot into palliative that is meant for NEMA, that is meant for emergency. So I'm hoping that and this is I'm scared because we had an issue with Adamawa at the time where we saw hoodlums or indigents of Adamawa looting and going to get food that was meant for emergency. That's the NEMA product. So I'm hoping that we don't have a repetition of that event again happening there. Still on the Guardian newspaper, grounded Erie fleet threatening Chevron's oil production. You can find that on page 5. As well, we have tributes for Elegance still on Owenu as beat stop at 72. And May 30 trillion naira probe National Assembly amends CBN Act to raise the Ways and Means loans to federal government. Police for bomb attack in Lagos restrict protesters to 2 venues. You can find that on page 3. Court restrict protesters to 4 centers in Ogun State. And we have the picture story talking about the FCMB facts behind the offer. You can do well to get the paper and read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On the Matrix newspaper, reps orders NNPCL to halt crude oil mortgage plans. On Olympics, Super Falcons bows out after 3-1 defeat to Japan. Onyeka Onwenu, exit of the elegant stallion, draws plenty of tributes. Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, others mourn. UK Prime Minister Starmer calls President Tinubu seeks enhanced trade investment partnership. APCON urges CBN to extend BDC license deadline review requirements. The big story on the paper, hashtag end bad governance protest, it's D-Day. Reduce protests to 1 or 3 days, lawyers urges protesters. Sanwo-Olu addresses Lagosians, says no to repeat of hashtag end SARS. IGP orders cops to deal decisively with arsonists and troublemakers. Police deactivate explosive device in Lagos, call for caution. Courts restrict protests to specific areas in Lagos, Abuja, and others. Senate increases CBN Ways and Means loans to federal government. Justice Opheli's daughter found dead in Lagos home. Israel, Iran react to assassination of Hamas political chief. You can find details on page 9. Amid breakup rumors, Kiss Daniel wife posts loved up pictures. For entertainment lovers, you can find details on page 17. And we have a picture story where we can see, remember, hashtag end SARS. Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, his deputy Obafemi Hazmat Commissioner Commissioner of Health Professor Akin Obayomi and others during an address by the governor to dissuade protesters from embarking on the August 1st protest. This happened yesterday in Lagos, and that's all the news on the Matrix newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, Odua's Investment Commission Lagos Liaison Office, detail found on page 7. Ogun State roll out electric bikes and tricycle, which we can see the picture story here showing the governor trying to, test the bikes and all of that. This is really commendable coming from the governor of Ogun State. Need fund disburses 1.17 billion loan to 20,000 students. No true friend of Lagos protests coming from the Lagos State Governor Sanwo-Olu. Senate passed the bill to increase federal government Ways and Means borrowing limit, which you can find on page 8. Nationwide protests. Court institute restriction to time, venue to curb potential security threat. Protests can be hijacked by bandits, insurgents, and other criminals. This is coming from the federal government, and I believe this is where Nigerians are calling on the security agency to fish out those people who will want to hijack this protest. You can find out on page 2. Downside of the paper, Makinde renames First Technical University after Ajimobi, which we can see the governor there trying to sign that, and that's all on Nigerian News Direct newspaper.
Now on Nigerian Tribune, Sons Obi recount last moment of Onyeka Onwenu. Tinubu orders mourn. Police deactivate explosive device in Lagos, hours to nationwide protest. The big story on the paper, hardship protest, security beefed up in state, soldiers, policemen, NSCDC in show of force. IGP holds last-minute virtual meeting with strategic commanders. Will treat any protester wielding weapon as criminal. A statement from NSCDC. And yes, if a protester is not holding a weapon, you should not fire back at unarmed protesters. A gun is no match for stones. Neither is it for sticks and any other thing. The only protester you can shoot back at is a protester that is holding a weapon equal to your weapon, and that is a gun precisely. Any other thing apart from that is just our security officers being brutal with civilians. So we are looking forward to seeing them conducting themselves in the right manner. Also, we are looking forward to the same from the protesters.
Sure.
Respect rights of protesters. NHRC urges security agencies. Constructive engagement better than protest. Federal government insists. Senate wants organizers to shelve protest, says Tinubu needs more time. There is no need to protest. Sanwo-Olu addresses Lagosians. Owa of Idanre dies at 103. Aiyedatiwa others mourn. Exu ex-DVC's body found in shallow grave 3 weeks after his abduction. You can find details on page 23. 3 domestic staff arrested over Justice Ajumogobia's daughter's murder in Lagos. Gombe can't afford 70,000 naira minimum wage, the governor is lamenting. National Assembly repeals reenacts 2024 Appropriation Act. Retains 35.056 trillion naira total budget figure. Ways and Means Senate reps amend advances to 10%. On student loan, NEL Fund disburses 1.17 billion naira to 20,000 beneficiaries from 5 institutions. 260,000 application approved. NFTU DSS AFCC ICPC to ensure transparency and security. You can find details on page 13, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
And a look at the Blueprint newspaper. Oil theft. We have the Nigerian Air Force airstrike destroy over 70 illegal refineries in 3 months. You can find out on page 6. Tinubu mourns as music legend Onyeka dies at 72. World Bank reconstruction Nigerians $350 million power project loan to December. Paris Olympics Super Falcon crash out after loss to Japan. This really is sad, but after all our bragging, we still lost. You can find detail of that inside the paper. And we have on 2026 recapitalization. CBN begins review of bank's capital plan. We will support federal government $1 trillion GDP 2030 target. We will support the federal government $1 trillion GDP 2030 target, coming from Cardoso. Edo Ondo Guber INEC tax media on fake news and misinformation. You can find in the paper. As protest commences, federal government urges dialogue, reels out achievements, more groups back out. 50 kg of rice to be sold at 40,000 naira available. This is coming from Idris. That is to say the federal government is planning to set up an outlet where you can buy that rice for that price. Governor Yusuf Emir Sanusi, Kano resident, backs Tinubu. Meanwhile, we're assisting that in Kano State, about 40% of the indigents there do not have jobs. And we have court restrain Abuja and Ogun protesters. Let no bullet be fired tomorrow. This is coming from Adebo Ruwa, Bex, IGP, and Tinubu. You can read detail of that on page 8. 1.7 billion naira so far disbursed to 20,000 students, coming from Neil Phone. National Assembly, we have jacks up CBN Ways and Means to 10%. And then in Niger, son killed father, buries the corpse in a shallow grave. You can find out on page 7. MTN posts 175.6 billion naira pre-tax loss amid rising inflationary pressures. You can find out on page 20. We still have the picture story showing us the ministerial press briefing series. You can do well to get the paper in more detail of any other story that is of interest to you.
On Punch Sport Extra, we see that Henacho has moved to Serie A, joining Sevilla. You can find details on page 6. The Tigers faces France in second Group B clash. Ophelis omission dents Nigerians campaign. Chelsea intensifies Siemens talks with Napoli. Adeyemi agrees terms with Juventus. Details can be found on page 3. Murphy out for 9 months on injury. Blues confirm Jurgensen's signing, and Arsenal consider Ramsdale loan exit. Euro may miss start of season. You can find details on page 5. Williams set to snub Barca at PSG. club rules out of early coaching return. Djokovic really reaches Olympic quarter-final. The big story, end of road as Falcons lose 3-1 to Japan, exit Paris 2024 Olympics without no win or draw. They lost all 3 matches. And I believe that this was way below our expectation for the Olympics. We were hoping there would be a stronger Falcon team, but obviously that wasn't it. I believe that there are many more tournaments for the Falcons to redeem themselves and then prove to Nigerians that they are capable of more wins in the future. And that's all the news on Punch Sport Extra.
Well, we hope that the rest of the other sports column there will be able to have Nigeria representing
We are
us.
looking forward
Of course,
to that.
whether it's for boxing. And for boxing already, I think one of us
We
is
saw
out
one
already.
out because she failed
Of course, the doping test and all
yes,
of
but
that.
we
So
are
I just
still
hope that
hoping
we'll
on
have
Amusan and the rest that are still
of
in.
course,
Yes,
of course,
hopefully.
of course. So we are rooting for them.
We
We
are.
just hope that even though our Super Falcons are back home, we hope that the rest will do us
We hope
something
so.
great. Well, I think that's how far we can go on the program this morning. Thank you, Rachel, for doing this.
You're
with
welcome,
me.
Sarah.
As well, thank you to our followers, our viewers, and every other person who made the program a success. Please do remember, wherever you are, if you are going to be among the protesters, try as much as possible to be safe. It's very, very important that your life is more important than any other thing. We look forward again to doing this tomorrow. To have a blessed day ahead.